Hey guys, what's up? SoyuzOne. So I wanted to get back into the Kerbal Space Program videos because just kind of dropped 30 bucks on it. So I figured, hey, what's better to get back at with the program than doing a Crew Dragon launch abort test. So they just did that all over the news. So they fired a Falcon 9 rocket with 9 Merlin engines on the bottom, as that's why I'm putting 9 engines on the bottom here, which was kind of difficult because none of the engines were a real good fit for either of these fuel tanks. So I kind of decided just to go with the 8 round of those smaller fuel tanks and then just slap one in the middle. But yeah, the Falcon 9 has 8 of these Merlin engines on the bottom, and that's in the first stage. And then I have the Crew Dragon capsule on top, which is just what they were trying to test in the launch abort. It was kind of hard making those little channel engines, so best I could do was slap some plates on the top of these little Werner guys, and that kind of mimicked it pretty well. But yeah, these Crew Dragon capsules, I think they need to test to make sure they can abort safely before NASA will let them dock and do a handful of things with the ISS. So yeah, this was really interesting. If you guys haven't watched the video, I would definitely do that, but really interesting video. So I'm putting some panels on here, trying to make it look a little more channeled. One thing I found kind of difficult after testing some of this stuff was the aerodynamics of those channels, because I mean on the actual spacecraft they clearly don't stick out like that. That's best I could do with getting a groove, you know. But yeah, the aerodynamics of those things would often throw the rocket off, and you can't really put wing surfaces on the side because it makes it a little unrealistic of the actual rocket, because the actual Falcon 9 doesn't have any wing surfaces. I think I ended up doing that towards the end because I had really no other choice. But yeah, the aerodynamics of that thing kind of sucked. Also with those Merlin engines, I don't really know the stats on the Merlins, but like I said, I had to make these the only engines that would really fit 9 engines onto the bottom of one of these fuel tanks, so the thrust of those is not excellent, so I ended up draining a little bit of fuel out of some of those tanks, which I feel like is probably more realistic for the actual like thrust to weight of the Falcon 9, just maybe not for Kerbal Space Program, which is obviously the most realistic thing ever. Yeah, so first test, obviously it works right on the first time, right? So you can see there's not a whole lot of acceleration with those 9 engines, so it kind of requires, originally that bigger fuel section that I have at the bottom, the wider fuel tank, I had that going up a lot farther, and it looked a little bit better because the Falcon 9 is very uniform all the way up, but it weighed way too much, so we had to sacrifice a little bit of that aesthetic for a little bit of function. So we're starting to make our turn. I think all of the in-flight videos sped up by I think 1.5, just so it'll go through a little bit quicker. Yeah, and then we started doing a little loop-de-loop there. Turned it into an art project, so we had to go back. I'm fairly certain that's due to the aerodynamics of that channel. So yeah, I looked for a few wings to add in. It was kind of difficult. I really didn't want to add wings because right away that makes it not look like the actual thing. This is supposed to be a flawless recreation of the actual event. So yeah, I went back into it. Obviously this did not work either. So, well, I mean, for stability it worked a lot better. So we had our separation, and separated the last stage a little bit late. If you watch the video, after he separates from the main stage and aborts about like 2/3 of the way through burning the escape fuel from the launch abort system, he detaches that second stage. So I should have done that a little bit earlier, which was just my fault. So I didn't really make any changes except for like a little bit of fuel levels. So we tried it again, and freaking did not release it on before I was done burning that time either, so that was a big oof on my part. I also thought different wing surfaces might give me a little more stability going up. So yeah, I believe this was the one that worked without flaw. So, oh yeah, cinematic, beautiful. I'm not sure what time they launched for the space abort system. I'm sure it was in the morning, like in this video, because this video is without flaw. So, beautiful descent, starting to get a little bit of turn. It was kind of difficult turning the nose, and I had to go back and add those wings on the top, because on the Crew Dragon capsule they have these 4 little radial fins that I don't really know what. I mean, yeah, I don't really know exactly what they're for, because typically you don't want wing surfaces towards the front of the craft. But anyways, I just kind of screwed with me at higher speeds because it'd want to flip my craft around, which I think is why I went back and added those bigger wing surfaces. So then approximately at that time, they throttled down the engines, and I burned a little quicker after the engines throttled down. I think they waited like another 10 seconds in the actual test. But yeah, you see T plus 108 at the top, so we're throttling down. Separation, and then realistic explosion effects. Couldn't really blow it up in the actual program, but you know, if you watch the actual video, they blow up the rocket after that in a beautiful shot. I think it was Scott Manley or someone said they should have put in some type of chemical that would give either like red or pink or blue or whatever as like a most expensive gender reveal party or something along those lines, which is realistic. It costs like 62 million to launch a Falcon 9 every time. So upon descent, what the Crew Dragon capsule does is higher up in the atmosphere, and I think it's like 10,000 kilometers, or 10,000 meters. I can't remember. Somewhere along those lines, it releases 2 drogue chutes. So that just slows down your craft. The drogue chutes are not affected by high wind speeds nearly as much. They're a lot safer. They just don't slow the craft down a lot. And then after it gets to about 2,000 kilometers in the test, the top hatch rips off with those 2 drogue chutes, and then 4 main sails, or 4 main chutes, pop out of the top. And then it just continues down, and we sped the time up a little bit with the physics warp. Yeah, and then the top hatch somehow just comes and bops us on the noggin, so big oof on that. I'm very surprised it somehow perfectly landed straight down. I guess there's no really like wind physics in Kerbal Space Program, but yeah, that was just kind of funny. So yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. I think the whole time that elapsed for the actual test was like, I don't know, like 4 minutes, or no, it was 9 minutes, and they actually finished a little earlier than they thought they would. I think it splashed down like half a minute earlier, which I guess doesn't like really matter or anything. So anyways guys, thanks for watching the Crew Dragon abort test system launch, whatever, fill in a bunch of words that kind of describe it. Appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to recommend any other videos along the lines of Kerbal Space Program, I love to do them. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank ya. Don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button. Appreciate it guys. SoyuzOne out.